Here today I have Vladimir, and this is going to be episode 1 of our series Vladimir the Terrible, and we're going to be watching Vladimir play some 2-4 and 3-6 PLO, and we're going to analyze his play.
Hey guys, so that's a fold, right? I mean, low cards, double
Yeah, that's
suited.
actually one of the common mistakes that I think people make is they see these double suited card hands with really small cards in them and just assume that because they're connected, the hand is going to be playable. But 2-3-5 is just really, really bad, and all of the flops that you're going to hit, the vast majority of them are just going to get you into bad situations where you make the bottom end of a straight or you have the bottom end of a straight draw and you get it all in against the bigger half of it.
Yeah, if you had position, is it a call or still a fold in
I would still
position?
fold it in position. I would
Okay.
open that on the button or the
Yeah.
cutoff, but if someone
Now,
already had entered the pot, I would fold.
yeah, now when we get three bet, we call for sure. Like, mm, any merit to ever four bet a hand like this? I mean, if the guy is three betting a lot or something.
Definitely, this is a good hand to four bet, especially given how deep you are.
Yeah.
Calling is fine too.
Mm, I mean, I usually check the flop. Don't wanna. Actually, we might like bet fold is probably. I don't know. Bet folding is okay, I guess, but like we probably get to showdown here. Or do we bet just for value on I mean, we could probably just bet fold because if we get raised, we are beat every time, but we protect our hand at the same time.
Um, why don't you play out the hand and then we can
Okay, okay,
analyze it
yeah,
afterwards?
okay, yeah. I was gonna bet fold because like if you get raised, I mean, unless he is bluffing with an ace blocker. I'm checking. So I'm putting him on like aces or something. I like overpair, which was pot controlling the flop, but he's leading the river. So I assume he's gotta have some type of weak flush or 8-9, but 8-9 is probably betting the flop. So I assume that's a fold.
Yeah, I would definitely fold the river there. I think he almost always has non-nut flush, given how he played it. I don't really like betting the flop there too much because, just like you said, if he has 8-9, he probably just bets the flop himself.
Yeah.
So you don't really have to protect your hand too much there against possible draws that he might have because he usually just bets those.
Yeah, I'm just getting a little bit confused because Magic Ninja said that it's just so important to just take down the pot on the flop in Omaha, given people have so much equity. Like, say he's got aces, isn't that correct? Just bet and make him fold aces or like ace king, queen jacks that might lead the turn and make us fold on a turn. We can't call any turn bet, right? So we just want to bet the flop and take it down.
You have to look at both sides, though, because every time you bet, I mean, yeah, you get to take it down against a hand like aces or a hand that has no pair. Um, aces, I think, has about 33% equity against you approximately, and no pair probably has around 20, depending on the particular cards, probably less than that. You're also going to get called by flushes, something like 10-7, 10-9, 8-7, a hand like that, that he's checking in that spot. You're going to get check raised some part of the time. So, I mean, against those hands, you have very little equity, and the times he check raises, you're going to have to fold. So you do lose your bet sometimes also. So that's the other side that you have to factor in.
Yeah.
And you have a hand that can improve to a full house, so there is some value in seeing a turn card for you.
Right, and just folds the turn once he leads because we just don't beat anything. Here I just also fold. I check back the flop here because like we can make a flush, we can make a straight. I think we can make a straight, yeah. And we had a pair.
Yeah, I like how you played that hand.
Okay.
You don't really want to get check raised there.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit confused about put controlling and at the same time just betting it. Feels like it works so well to c-bet and barrel the turn and bet the river against most people who just peel too light, in single raise pots especially.
Definitely. I think there are a lot of players that don't really check raise bluff the flop unless it's a paired board. And against players like that, your general strategy should just be to bet the flop a
Yeah.
really high percentage of the time and barrel them.
Here a hand we can for sure call. Don't want to really three bet, so not even sure. Is it for sure a call? Maybe it's not a call pre-flop. I think it's a call though. Um,
Yeah, I would call that
and
hand.
yeah, I feel like on this flop, we can check raise fold if he goes over the top because then we are just screwed anyway. And actually we have wraps, so I still feel like he is never going to be 3-bet bluffing here. So when he calls, we have equity to improve and also equity to also can bluff him off on a turn if you don't hit. And we've got a lot of sevens in our range, like
Right.
wraps, rundowns.
I would play this definitely the same. I think another common mistake that a lot of people make is they check call hands like this on a flush draw paired board where they could already be drawing dead. I think a hand like that, check raising is almost always the best play.
Right.
Leading is fine too.
Yeah, what do you make of leads on boards like this? I mean, when I've noticed people leading, especially, I mean, I mean, 779 is probably okay, but if you have a board like 4-4 deuce and a guy leads into you, I mean, he never has a 4, right? Why would he lead 4-4 deuce when you are c-betting almost 100% of the time?
At the same time, if he thinks you're going to think he never has a 4, he expects you to bluff raise him so he wins more money that way. So I don't think it's necessarily that simple.
Yeah, I've noticed basically that people lead like gut shots. They don't want to check call. So bluff raising works pretty well against certain players.
Right. The bluffing aspect of the hand that they have is usually going to be something that has some piece
Yeah.
that's still not strong enough to check call, assuming they're a good player.
Um, Here, this is like easy fold, right? Just queens. We are hoping to flop a queen. Nothing else is really good for us. And he three bets like 3% overall, so his range is strong.
Yeah, I like that. If he was 250 big blinds deep
We can
or
call.
at 1300, you can definitely call it just for set value there. But your hand is pretty bad there. Queen, queen,
Yeah.
A3 with one suit to the 8.
Actually, this hand, opening it on a cutoff is probably okay, I guess, but it is double suited. It looks connected, but I guess it's not really connected.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely play that hand from the cutoff. I'd play that one spot earlier, too, from the hijack.
Yeah, now we are getting 3-bet. I usually always, I mean, I don't feel every time, but I assume that actually the chump for you is coming along. So if he's coming along, we can call to flop a set with top pair.
Yeah.
But I still don't know if that's correct at
I
all.
call there. Um, General rule of thumb, if you have a double suited hand, you're not going to raise and then fold to a 3-bet unless
Okay.
it's really, really discoordinated.
Like ace king deuce 5, and we know that he's basically has aces
Right.
a lot, then we can fold.
Right. That's the type of hand that you're going to end up folding sometimes.
Yeah, here it's a little bit weird. Like we don't really want to get it in against chump for you because I mean I'm just calling, and if chump for you actually gets it in, we still have to call. I mean maybe not. Maybe not. He's gonna have jacks or kings too much.
I definitely like just shoving there.
Oh, okay.
Chum for you is really unlikely to have kings. You have a blocker
Yeah.
and a lot of kings. He's going to re-raise pre-flop, so I think that's not really that big of a part of his range there. And other than that, there's just one hand that you're in bad shape against.
Yeah, so
And
it's fine to get it in here. Okay, now actually we got the worst turn, so I feel like checking is the best play. If we could actually, nah, shoving sucks. I think I check. When we jam the turn, he's just folding everything besides like maybe a straight and a flush.
right. That's the reason, by the way, that I think you have to just jam the flop is on that turn card, you potentially risk him not stacking off.
Yeah,
If he
agreed.
has some hand like, like King Jack or something like that, he might check fold.
Right, yeah.
Whereas when he bets that big on the flop, he's stacking on the flop every single time.
Also makes sense to jam the flop with like a pair with a wrap or like pair plus flush draw and stuff.
Right. Because you don't necessarily get paid off if you just call there and you hit your straight or your
Yeah,
flush.
yeah, that's true. I mean, it's like a mistake, given I played no limit or still play, that if you flop the set, you would just call to make chump for you, just raise or come along or like a bluff raise so you can reshove and also like disguise your hand a little bit. It doesn't
Right.
make sense for Omaha because people like also his sizing. Let's see how much he bet. He bet like 216 into two people. He's just never bet folding, so there is no point to like call and make it look like we might have like Jack 7.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely one of the differences in PLO in that spot. When someone bets, they're always stacking, and chum for you is never going to bluff in that spot either.
yeah, agreed. And he's never gonna come along. I mean, what is he gonna come along? Just shoving his best. Yeah.
It's possible he could come along with some hand like Queen Jack 10 4 or something like that. Um, but even then, you're not really gaining that much letting him come along with a hand like that. And
Yeah.
compared to the value of possibly not getting all of JGB Man's money, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. Also just taking it down. I mean, making chump for you fold like a wrap with a flush draw, which he might, I mean, like say low flush draw with a wrap. If he
He's not
folds it,
folding that.
if you jam, is he really
A
coming
wrap and a flush draw, I think
like a
he's
low flush draw?
stacking.
Or it doesn't, I mean, 200 big blinds deep where it's, I mean, not two, yeah, more than 200. Um, actually, that would be interesting. What type of hand, if you are him, if you're chump for you on this board, um, what do you jam once GGB man bats and we call? What's his jamming range? Like, what's the worst hand?
Obviously, any king jack is gonna jam. I think king seven
Yeah,
is a jam
top two.
there.
Oh, really? King
Um,
seven?
I
King
think king
seven,
seven's a
nothing
jam there.
else?
If you call, he's guaranteed to have you beat. Um, so I think king seven's fine. The thing is, he's not gonna have too many king sevens that don't have something else, you know?
Yeah, King seven, eight, nine.
Yeah, he's gonna have something like king seven, eight, nine, or king queen 10,
If
7
he's
or something
got
like that.
like ace, queen, 10, but no flush draw, is it a
I
ship?
No, I think definitely just call. You only have 9 outs to the nuts right there.
Yeah, yeah. So here we are three betting, like premium hand, and we got position and deep, and
Definitely,
yeah. If the eight is a seven, it's still fine to three bet.
definitely.
If the eight is a six, becomes closer,
But
right?
yeah, I would still three bet that.
Because it's double suited, right? Okay.
Yeah, and you have one suit to the ace, one suit to the queen.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting board. This guy came along. He's German. He's leading. Oh, this is. I mean, I'm just gonna mock because, like, who knows? Maybe he's got like Jack seven that is bet calling. Um, and we just don't have any equity against him. Maybe, like, if he's got a flush and he's not gonna fold a flush. So it's weird though. Like, we don't know if he's a fish yet, but like in No Limit, people lead. It's just total air here and represent whatever. But like in Omaha, probably just fold and move on.
That's an interesting spot, I think, because I mean it's hard to assume that he's a competent player because we don't really know anything about him. And
Yeah,
over 6 hands, he's playing pretty loose, and he just did cold call. So I'd probably lean towards assuming he's not that good.
yeah,
But very small sample size. You can't really put too much weight into that. But against a good player in this spot, I think bluff raising on the flop is probably not a bad play. And the reason for that is a lot of the hands that a good player is going to cold call in that spot are not going to have an ace in them. He's usually going to four bet or fold most of the hands that have an ace in them. So he's very rarely going to have the nut flush in this spot.
okay. Yeah, and if you bluff raise, you make it just like 250,
Yeah, I think that's
just
about good.
super
You don't have to
small.
make it more.
Yeah,
He's either folding or he's got a
gone.
set or a
Yeah,
flush that he's probably just going to stack with.
right. see if we find another deep table. That's for sure more fun.
right? If you have any general questions, we can talk
Yeah,
about those right now
thinking
also.
about. Yeah, what about the small blind? Um, like people say no limit, you probably don't want to have a calling range in the small blind unless the big blind is very squeeze happy because you either three bet or fold. Some people also call. What's it in Omaha? Like if we are in the big blind and the button raised and the small blind called, we can call with a wider range, assuming we are getting better pot odds. Like say a hand like this, 6-9-8-8, and we are in a small blind. So the button is opening a lot. Do we still call or fold pre-flop? And
If he
also,
pots it, I'm usually just folding this hand. In an ante game, you might have to defend a hand like that, but even then, my general approach from the small blind is to play really tight because position's really important in PLO, and a hand like that, there isn't too much that you're going to flop that you're happy with.
yeah,
You're basically looking to flop something like an 8 or a wrap, and you're not going to flop that too often.
and like flop 9 high flush draw, and if the money goes
Right,
in,
9 high
they're
flush
usually
draw is not
better.
worth too much.
Yeah. Now in this spot I folded because he's three bet. Easy fold, I guess, once this guy's three bet. But what if Alex just opened? Do you call on the button? I usually do it in shallow games because like in shallow games it's just easy to flop whatever and put the money in, but fold it 100 depends on the player, but like fold it more in a 100 big blind game and call it more in shallow, or fold it both ways or call it both ways.
I would definitely fold that hand more in shallow because
Ah,
you don't have
okay.
as much money behind when you flop a set or something like that. In a deep game, it depends on the player. Against a weak player, you can play a hand like that because you have position if you're deep. But against a good player, I'm usually folding that. If it's a little bit better, something like 8-8, 9-10, or 9-8, 8-7, or if it's double suited, I'll definitely play it.
Yeah, yeah. So like having a pair is just really bad. If it's like 5, 6, 7, 8, we are just never folding it.
Right, without a
Unless the
pair,
action
definitely play it also.
gets crazy. Here, this is so interesting. Maybe I just bet the flop, assuming nobody has 4-5, or it's just not likely to have for people to have 4-5 compared to like 8-9, and we got the nut flush blocker. So we were gonna barrel the turn.
Right. I
Um,
definitely like the flop bet.
yeah,
Without the ace of spades, I usually just check because I mean someone's gonna come along with like a flush draw or something like
yeah.
that.
How well does it work? Like we bet the flop, jump for you calls, and the turn is like a 9 of spades, and you bet the turn, and he calls one more time, and do you really bet the river? I assume
It
his range is usually always a set or a flush, and I really don't think anybody folds a flush.
it works pretty well, surprisingly.
Really? Huh.
One of the reasons for that is in that spot, you're going to be more likely to have the nut flush than you are going to be having the nut flush blocker. And
Okay.
that's just because you're going to be playing pretty tight pre-flop. Most of the hands that you play are going to be suited, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be minus EV for him to generally call you down with a non-nut flush in that spot. So, I mean, two things. One is that if he does call you, you can know that his call is just a bad play against you because you're going to have the nut flush there a lot. So it's good
Because
for
we got
metagame,
suited cards, because we three bet
right?
pre-flop. Yeah, true.
And two is if he plays good, he's going to fold in that spot. So I think it's a spot where pretty much just bluffing every time is fine,
Oh, it's, yeah,
unless you're up against like a huge fish who's just never
yeah,
going to
yeah.
fold. But against any decent player, you can just bluff there every time, and it's the
Okay.
right play.
Right. So I'm leading here. Like I don't like check calling, don't like check raising. If I get raised, I just mug. Um, even though this Feuervogel, this German guy, has been making lots of moves so far. So maybe he might raise the flop. But like if he's raising, I mean, we just don't have anything, so we are fine folding.
Right.
And turn is interesting. So I was too. I mean, there is no flush draw, so like betting is probably better, given he might still raise. I was told that on a turn when, let's say you have like, I don't know, we have like say we have Queen Jack here as well, but there is a flush draw,
Right.
and the guy's likely to have the flush draw. So but he's also likely to bet the turns, and going for a check raise is definitely the best because we can like build the pot. Instead of betting, because what happened then is that he's going to call, and when he hits, he's going to bet the river, and you have to check fold the river a lot. Um,
Right. I understand the spot that you're talking about. I don't think it's really applicable to this particular hand because if are you talking about if the flop had a flush draw or the turn?
I like the flop had it, or the turn brought the flush draw, or generally like a hand. Basically, the flop is sad. This is probably when it happens the most. So the flop is 10-5-9. We flop like top 10, top set, and we bet the flop, and the turn is like I don't know. Maybe it's a break. Going for a check raise is probably better because he. I don't know. I mean, people will usually check back with like Queen Jack and bluffs the river maybe, but like what I noticed a lot is that I bet the flop and I put in like $42 here, and I bet the turn for 110 or 20 here, and
Right.
people call, and they I just make more money by check raising than by betting because I will have to fold like the river so much. Check fold the river. Say it's 10-9-5 king and it has a flush draw or two flush draws. I'm betting the turn, making people fold weak draws, and if they call, river is gonna usually bring complete a draw, and then I have to check fold so much.
Are you talking about when you have a set or when you have
Yeah,
Queen
like
Jack?
when I have a huge hand which can go for a check raise and put the money in.
I think the two hands are completely different, first of all, because if you have Ace Queen Jack in that spot, there are very few cards that you're gonna have trouble playing on the river, given how the hand played out. I mean, if
Right.
the flush comes and the flop had a flush draw, you can just check fold so easily there because what other hand is he gonna have that he's gonna turn to a bluff? And at the same time, any Jack, Queen, Ace, um, 8, 7, you're not really worried about. Whereas with top set, all of those are bad cards.
Yeah,
So the
it's a
two hands are
different
completely different. This
different
hand, I
as a
think you
set.
definitely have to bet. Even top set, um, in that spot, I mean, let's say 10-9, 5. Let's say you bet the king. The king is different though because I mean you don't necessarily want to check raise there
Yeah,
because
because
he
Queen
could have
Jack.
queen jack for sure. I think with top set on the king, bet folding is generally just your best play because he's going to call you with lots of draws and two pairs and whatnot. And if he raises, he pretty much always has queen jack or king king or
Sucks to
something like
fold the
that.
set, you know. That's like,
Yeah, it's not good, but I
yeah,
mean,
it's
it's
just
fine
difficult
still.
to learn that a set is really not worth too much in Omaha unless you make a boat.
Right.
In the limit, you flop the set, you're just never folding. Here in this hand, just before, I mean, pre-flop is like, okay, to call the 3-bet. On the flop, I just check called, assuming he might shut down. But I'm not too sure about the flop. I mean, we have a nut gut shot, but only like 3 queens are good. A king is good, an ace is good, but I don't even know what to do on an ace because you can have queen 10. If the 10 comes, I'm like not too happy. If the 9, I'm not happy at all. So
Yeah, I think it's fine though. I mean, he bets so small on the
yeah,
flop right there. You have to call there. Your
we are
hand is
getting
just
like,
too valuable.
yeah, great.
And then turn is good also. When he pots it there, you can fold.
Yeah. He's also limping, so we can actually, he might be fishy. I don't know for sure. So this board, I mean, nobody's gonna ever fold too many draws. Otherwise, we could like lead. And now we're gonna. Uh, I'm just giving up.
Yeah, that's fine.
How much do people bluff in Omaha in your experience on like the flop or turn? It seems like you don't really have to bluff as much in Omaha compared to No Limit, given you're just more likely to have a lot of hands where you have just the nuts or close to the nuts, so no need to bluff. You're just playing for value mostly.
Right. It's different than no limit in the sense that when you get check raised or raised on the flop, they're usually not going to be bluffing you. I think on paired boards is when a lot of players play really aggressively because on average, if you give yourself 4 random cards, I think it's like 18% or so that you're going to have trips in that spot. So most of the time, you're not going to have something. So that's one spot where a lot of players play aggressively. Some dry flops like King 7-3 and stuff like that, some people will bluff raise, but there are a lot of players I played against who just don't bluff raise any flops other than paired boards.
Yeah, because like most people just assume you're gonna have something, and it's also expensive. It seems like to be bluffing on boards because like don't you want to be raising? Actually, I'm gonna three bet it. Nah, should I gonna three bet him here? I'm just gonna lead. You don't have to lead. I'm not sure what's best. I think leading is still best. He chump for you might come along. Um, this is probably loose three bet. I just was trying to mix it up a little bit on a button. Now when we get forward, we like have to call.
Yeah, you definitely have to call here.
Now we flop like not fantastic, but well, button two
Yeah,
gotta get it in.
great spot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't three bet that hand. I'd probably just fold it. I don't think it's really that strong.
Yeah, really on a button.
Two gaps in the middle.
Okay. Yes, it just looks so pretty. Like most hands just look so good. Back to the check raising in Omaha. Don't you want to be check raising
I
usually?
would value bet, by the way.
Really, it's a river. Oh,
The turn went check, right?
yeah. But it's three-way. I mean, what do they have that are gonna call? Yeah, look, now this is weird. So LG never has Queen Jack.
Right.
So, and this guy, I mean, we got a call like pot
Yeah,
up.
I think you call. You're getting
He might bluff. Chump might bluff something. Wow, he had a set.
set of tens.
Well,
He would have won a lot of money if he raised the
yeah,
flop.
yeah. If you raise the flop. So like in Omaha, if you're check raising, are you usually not check raising bigger? Assuming like in Omaha, if you're check raising a guy and you give him the pot odds to like to peel too light, he cannot have like 10% equity. It's almost impossible unless you have quads or whatever, or like
Exactly.
boat. So you want to be check raising bigger.
You have to check raise bigger.
Yeah.
Yes.
So isn't
And
that
that's one of the
like
reasons that people don't check raise bluff as much because you have to risk more.
yeah. Notice that. Yeah, this
On paired boards and really dry boards, you can still check raise for maybe about 2x or so, a little bit less even.
yeah.
But other boards, you have to check raise almost bigger than that.
On this board, for example, you don't have to protect as much.
On this board, you can just make it, if they bet 120, you can make it like 350 or something like that,
Yeah.
and that's fine.
So yeah, actually, what his equity? Oh, we got it in pretty good. 67% for Omaha is fantastic.
Yep. About what you have against ace-ace there too, usually.
Yeah. So this is like somewhat tough spot for me. I mean, I usually just bet because check calling is, I don't like check calling. Just bet folding is probably best. What I noticed is that especially good Omaha players who are not like fit or fold, which seems to be the most, are like two fit or fold. They peel so much, and then like the turn is just going to be usually a horrible card. Even the ace is horrible, or they just raise. I mean, bet folding is just best. How much do you think you're getting bluffed on the board like this? And you made it pot, isn't it pot?
Some of the time, definitely. This is a board that people are going to bluff you. At the same time, though, you can't do anything about it here. He could also be raising just like a nut flush draw with like a 4 or something
or just
like
a gutter, and when you call, you're gonna check fold the flop. But if you get peeled on this board, what's the plan for the turn? Usually check fold, right?
Usually, I would keep betting. You have two ace blockers there, so it's really unlikely that he's gonna have a straight. I mean, people will definitely flat the flop with 5-6, but it's less likely that someone's gonna have a straight in that spot because the ace-5 straight, you have two aces to block that. So I would just keep betting.
Okay. Yeah. I
If
mean,
it bricks off on the turn and it bricks off on the river, I'd probably just bluff the river also.
okay. If it's like 6, 7, 8, we just check fold to flop, mostly like boards, mid
No,
card.
6, 7, 8, I would also bet, because you have the 9 blockers there too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, if you didn't have the 9 blockers. If you just have overpair with nothing else, you just check fold, mid cards. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, with aces, it seems like you just wanna like see a 4 bet so you can get it in pre-flop. Would you agree that you rather want to have a rundown to play in a single raised pot than an aces? Depends on which aces, of course. Like
Um,
Queen Jack 10-9 just plays so much better than like Ace Ace 9-9.
it plays better, but I'll take the aces. Aces makes more money.
Okay, yeah, that's a fold. Yeah, just gotta play tighter in Omaha. Just so inviting to play. Also, sometimes nothing is going on. You want to see a flop. Yeah.
One of the concepts that I definitely want to touch upon was the one that we were talking about earlier on the 10-9 for king board, when to go for a check raise in a spot like that. I think it comes up the most often in re-raise pots when the board is something like, let's say it's like 10-9-4 and you have top set and the turn comes, let's say the turn is something like in a 5 that puts up a flush draw. That's a spot
Yeah.
where if you have something like if you make a pot size bet on the turn, you're gonna have about a pot size bet left on the river. That's a really good spot to go for a check raise because in a re-raise pot, they're gonna be peeling on the flop lighter, so you can't necessarily just fold if something like a queen comes or a 7 comes because they're gonna have a lot of hands that might just be like a pair and a gut shot or something like that, and they didn't necessarily improve on that card. So in that spot, because you're not as comfortable on the river making good folds on particular cards, say the backdoor flush comes, um, he's generally going to be able to outplay you in a spot like that
Yeah, this
because
is
his
this,
range is just much wider, and you're not going to be able to make good folds, good confident folds on cards like that. So that's a much better spot, I think, to go for a check raise than the single raise spot that you were in, the 10-9-4 king, when
yeah, board was
you
different.
can just play much better on the river there.
Yeah. Also, especially when people peel so light and bet like all their gutters and whatever on the turn.
Right.
Um, is it probably like the most optimal play to? Oh yeah, look at this. Hope he checks. Yeah, maybe gotta check back and
Yep.
lose. Look at this. I mean, this is just a sign why people are. I mean, oh no. He
This
had two
plays okay.
flush draws. He had
Yeah, he had two flush draws
yeah,
and he had an open ender.
yeah. He had yeah.
He played the hand pretty
I think
fine, other than pre-flop,
he's got like 50% on the turn. Nah, close to 50.
close to 50. He
Yeah,
might have
42.
42.
In like say the flop comes down 5, 6, 10, and you have like 6, I don't know, just a mid pair, nothing else, and guy bets into you and you decide to float, given you can turn like trips and stuff, and turn your brick and he checks. Is it better to check most of the time and bluffs the river? Because like the river is just gonna complete so many draws and you never knows what type of draw you can have on 5, 6, 10. Like any 7, 8, 9 tray, I mean, you can have it, right? But
It
if you bet
depends.
turn, you are risking a check raise.
It it's a trade-off, definitely. It depends a lot on the particular hand that you have. I mean, if the board is 10-6-5 queen and you have just a 6 with like a gut shot or something like that, you're almost definitely better off checking because on that board your opponent's not going to check fold too often when he opened. But if the board's a little bit different, if like a deuce comes on the turn or something like that, it might be a better spot to bet because there are going to be a lot of cards that just pair the board. Any jack, queen, king, ace. Um, he's probably not going to give you credit for having river 2 pair there. So
Yeah.
you're usually better off just bluffing on the turn
So
because you can't bluff as many river cards.
so like cards which obviously could have improved you on the turn already, you can just bet fold.
Right.
This hand here, I mean, not this one, but this one. I mean, he's under the gun. I'm not sure about pre-flop. 3 high cards. The deuce is really bad. Is it better to have a deuce than a 6? Because you can make like a wheel
They're pretty much
the same.
the same. I mean, a 6 is, I guess, a little bit worse, but it's pretty much not that relevant ever.
So the pre-flop call is marginal, but he made it min. He min raised pre-flop almost. We got a peel given we have like suited ace.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah,
And
I
flop,
think
I
this
don't
is
know
fine.
about the flop. This is like a typical situation where you get barreled and he knows you just never have. I mean, the 7 never helps you unless you have like, I mean, what can we have? Like turn the flush draw or something, but usually it never helps us, right? The 7, so we have to fold the turn so much. And he's under the gun, so he can barrel and be like, I have
Right.
ace,
I think
ace.
this is fine. I'd probably play it the same on every street. The one difference would be if you had the ace of spades instead of the two of spades here, then I would probably peel the turn there
Loves the river.
because you do have some value still in that hand. You do have top pair, top kicker with a gut shot to the nuts. If you give it a little bit more, something like the ace of spades blocker, it might be enough to peel the turn there.
Oh, you mean just the lone ace spades or the turn not flush draw?
Lone ace of spades.
Um,
Turn nut flush draw, obviously, you're going
yeah,
to
yeah,
fold.
yeah, we can fold.
Really huge hand.
Yeah. So with the turn not flush draw, do we just call or do you raise? I guess calling is better than
I would
raising.
just call because that's usually how you would play most nut flush draws you're going to have in that spot also.
Yeah, this is the spot. I used to 3-bet any aces because I was just so excited. He made it so small. I guess calling is okay. I don't know if aces are
Definitely.
good enough to 3-bet it. Double suited for sure, but like, I
Right.
guess they're
Aces
not.
like this usually play pretty well at just flatting. Going back to what you were talking about, where in Hold'em you're not flatting too many hands out of the small blind. In PLO, something like this, or King King Nine
King.
Five with one suit are definitely the hands that you're going to be flatting in this spot.
Yeah. Just gonna bluff the river. I think he checks back flush draw twice. We got aces, so we're gonna have ace 10. I'm not sure if he calls
Right.
us 2-pair.
I
Maybe
think
we
that's
had a
fine.
best hand, but I think he's got like 6-8. Jack
I think he
6.
could fold two pair.
Yeah. This hand here, if anybody opened, I mean, it's double suited. The 4, if the 4 is a 5, I guess it's always a call.
Right.
I don't like the 4 too much, but I think we still have to call. Yeah, I'm just gonna play maybe 4.
It's
Fold.
close. With the five, I'm definitely playing. With the three, I'm definitely folding.
Yeah, actually, and he's under the gun. Yeah, what is he checking? I'm just gonna check back and hope I hit the flush. Otherwise, I'm just folding. I think he's trapping too much.
Yeah, I think that's the correct play. I think the hands that most people check in that spot are, it's going to be something like queens with the flush draw is a hand that a lot of players check there because you're not really going to get someone to fold a better hand betting
Yeah.
once.
Why is he?
A king, something like king, queen, jack, nine, or whatever, people will check in that spot. And people will also definitely check something like ace 10, 9, 8 in that spot, looking to pot control a hand like that because they don't
Yeah.
really want to get raised.
Yeah. What we know is that he's never checking to check fold basically. So there is no point in betting.
Right.
Oh, look at this. We've got a table called Ariel. It's Euro table. Maybe it's for Foxwood fiends. Actually, I've been playing with Ansky quite a bit. Um, how would you rate him as a Omaha player?
He's very good. I've talked a lot of PLO with him.
Really? I don't know. I thought he was really horrible. Yeah, I played him at, I mean, maybe he's playing too many tables. I played him at 2 6-mix tables. We were just starting to play, and he was like folding on the flop, maybe like 60%, folding 90 on a turn, and c-betting 100% on the flop. Um, but it's
Well,
weird.
a small sample size of hands.
Nah, we played a lot. But it seems like, given Omaha is not yet solved, it feels like you just realize in Omaha, in No Limit, way quicker that you're just a dog. And in Omaha, it might look like, wow, look at how good I'm playing. And in reality, you're just running good, maybe. Has to be, ah, I don't know. Like he's so tight. I'm just gonna fold. I feel like it's double suited, but it's so disconnected. You're just gonna flop too much. Bottom pair, like nothing else. No, no,
Right.
yeah,
In position, I'm definitely defending. Out of
yeah.
position, I'd probably defend that too. You still have four unpaired cards that are double suited. I mean, it's a hand that plays pretty well against aces.
Okay. Oh, because he's so tight, actually his range becomes more like ace-ace, so it's better to defend. As if you have a guy who's three-betting a lot more than ace-ace, he can have like better rundown, so it's more often a fold.
I think you can defend against both types of players for different reasons. Against the really tight player, you can defend even though you have less equity against him. You're going to be able to play a little bit better on the flop. And against the player who three bets more, you're going to have more equity, even though his range is going to be a little bit different.
Okay. Um, yeah, the mistake I used to do that I called with hands like this, and then I flopped. Well, just like a pair. And I was like, all right, he's got aces. I'm fine against aces. But then I realized that people also three-betting rundowns, yeah, which was a huge mistake. Here on the right, I'm just check calling flop. You can turn a wrap. And a pair, top pair, we can mix a nut flush on a turn. He might barrel. Now he's barreling himself. This is, guess it's a fold. It's easy for him to barrel though again, like to make us fold queen jack.
Right.
We could check raise. I mean,
You could
he,
check raise and represent 10-9.
yeah, he made
Wouldn't be
it,
the worst play. You have some outs too, even if he
and
doesn't make the 10.
yeah, he also made it so small. Yeah, I mean,
Um, with this hand, I usually prefer leading on the flop because your hand is strong enough with the gut shot and nut flush draw that if he raises you, you can call. And in this spot, when the board pairs, now you can bluff him off of draw instead of having to risk so much money to get him to just fold whatever bluff he's usually barreling with there when the board pairs.
right. Um, Actually, on this turn, the sign isn't that a little bit that he bet 84 into 130. He bets small on the flop as well. So I mean, he's never betting 36 with top two. I don't think he does. At least I've seen some people do that, but I don't think he does. So on a
Right,
turn
it's
when you
not
bet
too
so
likely.
small again, I mean, makes sense to bet with 10-9 small just to milk somebody in, but also he's probably just trying to bet as cheaply as possible to make us fold like pocket
Right.
jacks. Yeah.
We're coming up on time now. Maybe we can play one more hand, talk about it, and then
Okay.
we'll call
Okay.
it a session for
Right.
episode 1.
Right. I'm just gonna turn auto post off. Oh, this Feuervogel guy seems to be super tight now, but he's been splashy first few hands. Now he's tightening up. Yeah, what I noticed is that when I started playing Omaha, I was like, wow, so many hands I can play. And then later on, I was like, wow, so many shitty hands I'm getting dealt. Um, so with the time you realize that so many hands are really bad, which seem to be look great when you're coming over from no limit.
Right. It's one of those things where after you just play a little bit, you realize that deuce, 3, 4, 5, double suited is just not a good hand, even though it looks so pretty.
Yeah. But if you get three bet, you defend, right, in position.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So this is it for part one, I guess.
Right. This is episode 1. If you guys have any questions, post them in the video thread. We'll respond to them. And tune in next week for episode 2.
See you guys.